Hello students, welcome to Scholar, your one-stop solution to IAS preparation. Students, I am Rahul Yaduka. I'll be teaching you Political Theory NCERT textbook of 11th class Political Science. So let's start. Students, you will find that this is the front cover of this book. Here there is an image of chess board on the front cover of the book. The name of the chapter that we are going to start right now is Political Theory and Introduction. Students, this is the book that we are going to read. This book is one of the new books of the series launched by NCERT Political Science in 2005-06. And one of the beautiful features of this new series is inclusion of a lot of graphics, a lot of cartoons, a lot of characters. Like in this slide, they will be conversing between each other, and the subject matter of their conversation will be things of socio-political relevance. But the interesting feature is that they are not scholars. They are fresh students like all of us. They want to understand what is going on in the society, how does our political system functions, and in that process they will be raising very naive or very deep questions, as you will see in the pages of this book. Students, when we talk about human beings, we also see that there are certain features which separate or put human beings apart from all other living beings. And there are a couple of qualities that are very important in this regard. One is that they possess reason. They can reason about what they are thinking, what they are doing, why. They can raise certain questions on their actions and also about outside world, right? And secondly, they have the ability to reflect on their action. Why it is important? It is important because it makes them self-conscious in nature. This ability to self-reflect is something that is very important for gradual improvisation, right? If someone is not able to reflect back on what they think, reflect back on what they do, they will be static in their nature. There won't be any evolution or gradual progress in their character. So these are two things that are specific to human beings among other living beings, right? And this is not only thing that we possess, we also have developed an elaborate language, and this language helps us communicate with each other, right? So this reasoning and reflection is not enough into itself. It becomes important when we also have a connecting medium, a channel of communication that is universally understood by all of us, and that is language. So this is the backdrop of our understanding that we have reason, we have capacity to reflect, and then we can engage with each other's views through using language. And this is something that provides us with a possibility to make a society, because no human being can live like an island. We have so many necessities for which we are dependent on each other, right? We cannot produce whatever we want for our survival and growth. We need dependence on others for this purpose, right? So we need a society. Next logical necessity is the existence of an authority above the society, which will make the rules of conduct, which will see that these rules are actually executed, and if some person in the society is violating those rules which are applicable on all of us, then that person is punished. That adjudication has to take place. So borrowing this idea to present times, so legislation, execution and adjudication are three fundamental features for which we need an authority, right? And that authority should be acceptable to all of us, and that is called government in commonsensical terms. So we need a society, we organize a society, we create a government to see that it functions well. But the next question is, are there various forms of government, or is there only one form of government? The very obvious answer to this, students, is that there are various forms of government. If you look in the present world also, you see there are aristocracies, there are theocracies, there is democracy of different kind, parliamentary system, presidential system. Now the natural question one should think is, are all of those forms of government equally good, or can we compare between them and judge which is the best form of government so that we can also follow it? right? Now, next thing that you should think is that if we come together to live as a society, we have to shed some of our freedom. We cannot exercise all of our freedom. This is important for law and order purpose also. We cannot steal and kill at our own wish. So there is law that restricts our freedom. But this is not enough. The question also arises that how much freedom can be curtailed? Can entire freedom be curtailed, or should no freedom be curtailed? So the essential question is, what is the right check and balance? What is the right balance between application of law and curtailment of freedom? Similarly, once human beings agree to respect the authority of government, does the state or the government owe something to its citizens in return of their commitment, of their respect, of their obligation towards the state? And do we also owe each other as citizens? These are certain questions that have been there with humankind and which will be there. Political theory as a discipline helps you grapple with these kind of questions, and that is the subject matter of our coming slides. Students, in daily life, you must be seeing that concepts like freedom, equality, and justice are some terms that are being used by almost each and everybody in the society, be they may learned people or who are not so learned, but they have this broad and personal understanding, some vague opinion about these concepts, that this is freedom, this is equality, and this is justice, right? Then what does political theory do? If everybody has an understanding, what is the significance of political theory? Why do we study it? The answer is that it helps us systematically think, right? There are various kind of thinking. It can be prejudice is also a kind of thinking itself. Having some opinion is also a kind of thinking. But systematically thinking is a different kind of thinking. Rational kind of thinking is a different kind of thinking. So this is where the role of political theory is. It explains first of all the meaning of these terms, that this is freedom, this is equality, this is justice, and it also explains us that these are the problems associated with definitions of freedom, equality, justice, secularism, and other such concepts, right? So in that process, we end up reflecting upon our existing definition, right? So once we study political theory, and it exposes to us that no, this simplistic understanding of justice or equality or freedom is not enough. These are the nuances associated with it. So what we do, we start probing or questioning or reflecting back on our existing definitions, right? Now this reflection is not an abstract activity. For instance, what kind of understanding of equality is there with the government, that will reflect into our policy making, right? So what academicians or intellectuals do or political thinkers do, they keep thinking about a better understanding of equality, a better understanding of freedom, and better understanding of justice, right? So it helps government and executing agencies like bureaucracy to focus on better policy practices. It improves our policy making, it improves our legislations, right? Now, students, we have been using this term political theory, political values, political systems, and things like that. But the common term associated with all these phrases is politics. But interestingly and surprisingly, we have not yet discussed what is politics. Politics hai kya? We have not talked about it. So, everybody, a common person in present day society, has a brief understanding of politics. Even that understanding is not theoretical in nature. सबके कुछ ना कुछ opinion है what is politics, right? So of course those people who occupy public offices will not deny that it is a medium through which we can do public service. If you go and ask Prime Minister of India, he will say that I am a servant of the public. This political office is an institution through which I can serve the people of India, right? But there is a sense of pejorative connotation associated with this term politics, and people look at what politicians do and then they infer from it what is politics. That thing which is done by politicians is politics. And what do politicians do? Unfortunately, there are certain section of politicians in our society and across the globe this is applicable, that they engage in manipulation and intrigue, and they pursue their ambitions and they pursue their interest by any means possible. A lot of corruption is there, violation of all morality is there, there is no ethics followed. Now, if a child is growing up in the society looking at such politicians, he or she will obviously infer that there is this politics which is an undesirable activity, right? And we should get rid of it. It should not be done. This is something bad. There is a despair of politics in the ordinary people, right? But as you know, we are not lay persons when we are reading political theory. This is where the role of studying political theory creeps in. Now we will start systematically thinking. As I told you, political theory helps us systematically think. Thinking in this way that this is an undesirable activity, it is not a systematic thinking. It is prima facie observation, it is an opinion of persons. Now let us turn the prism and think, is it a worthwhile activity? Is it going to make a better world if we understand politics and try to improve it? Right? Now, first thing first, we should understand and accept that politics is an important and integral part of any society. We cannot escape politics. Why this is so? Because when multiple people come together, their interests will conflict, right? Their desires will conflict, their expectations will conflict, their way of life may be different. So they need to converse with each other to secure their own interest. Now, securing their own interests make them influence each other and get influence. So this collective decision making that they agree upon, that this is the way our society or our group or our organization will run, this itself is an activity of politics. And hence Father of India Mahatma Gandhi also said that politics envelops us like a coil of snake. So when a snake coils a person, there is no way other than wrestling with it, otherwise that person is definitely going to die. So it is prudent that we don't despise upon politics, rather we should engage with it in a constructive way. So as we have been discussing throughout, that when there is a society, there is a necessity of a political organization. And why it is required? Because individual decision making is not enough. We are going to deal with so many decisions that affect all of the person in that organization, and hence there is a necessity of collective decision making. For that purpose, we institute a political authority. Now, when we talk about organization and institution, one should not get confused that political organization or government is the only organization. Apart from that, there are family, there are tribes, kinship, economic institution. Now, as I told you in the beginning of this lecture, that human beings have multifaceted needs. We have plurality of interests. Not all the institutions or any particular institution can satisfy all of our needs, right? We go to schools, we constitute family, we organize in as religious people in church or temples or mosque or whatever. We have banking system, we have financial institutions, right? We have army. So there are different congregations of people which deliver different kind of needs to human beings, right? So government is one such but very primary or central political organization. Now what does government do? It makes policies for the people that live under its authority. It can be economic policy, it can be educational policy, it can be foreign policy, and so on and so forth. An example of economic policy you can see in present times is agriculture bills are being passed. Similarly, we have new education policy that is coming. You can also see that we are having defense pacts with United States of America. So these are various examples of economic, educational and foreign policy. right? So what does this political organization called government do, and what is the benefit of this politics? So basically, it can improve our life, right? A good government can improve our life. How? It gives subsidy to farmers in a good way. If it gives scholarship to the students in reasonable way without corruption, it is simply going to improve our life. Or if a government is reckless and it is not able to protect its boundary, people's lives and security will be under threat. So in this way, you see, government can affect our life for both good and bad. It is important hence that we have a good and corruption free government. Now, we raised this question in the initial slides of this presentation, that what do we owe each other? What does a state owe to us? So we have this understanding that a state basically owes us good public policies. It should make good policies, execute them, and adjudicate if there is a violation, right? Now, the next question that automatically should arise in your mind, students, is that what if government does not oblige us? What if it does not fulfill its promises? Then what we do? We form associations and we protest, we organize demonstrations against the government, and in this process, we debate that why this policy of government is not right, what should be a better policy, and then through various channels like civil society, NGOs, political parties, we pressurize the government. We pressurize the government, we reach out to the government through constitutional channels. Sometimes extra constitutional means are also adopted by people. But the core idea is that we remember, or we make the government remember, that this is something you owe to us because we are citizens of this country, and hence government has to fulfill its promises, right? So you see that what is happening in this process is that we are negotiating with each other. Initially we negotiated with each other as citizens to make a government. Once the government is formed, we undertake collective activities to focus, to make the government focus on promotion of social development. So ultimately this negotiation is going on. And why this negotiation is going on? Because as we discussed in last slide or penultimate slide, that there is no final understanding of what is public good. Government can have one understanding of what is a good economic policy, but people can disagree with that. And this agreement or disagreement keeps on going on, right? And that's why this negotiation is also a perpetual process. Next, what do we study in political theory, right? So we see that, as we see in earlier slides, that there are various values and ideals like freedom, justice, equality, etc., which affect our social and public life, which guide our social and public life. We accept that there should be freedom, there should be justice, and there should be equality in the society, right? And these are not only abstract words without any meaning. They find place in the foundational text of our country, and what we call it? We call it Constitution of India. If you look at the preamble of this country, these political ideals find a place there, right? Now, these terms or the understanding of these terms is not of a recent origin. They are being debated for thousands of years, right? And Greek philosophers like Plato, Aristotle, ancient Indian thinkers like Kautilya, Western thinkers like Marx, and modern Indian philosopher and saint-like figure Gandhi also debated and thought a lot about these kind of concepts, right? And then where we stand today is a product of this debate. For instance, let's look at some of the concepts discussed by these philosophers. Plato and Aristotle in ancient Greece debated what kind of government is best. Should we go for monarchy, or is democracy a better version? Rousseau also thinks that freedom is a fundamental right. There is a famous quote by Rousseau that man is born free, but everywhere he is in chains. So he was a lot concerned about the value of freedom of human beings. Similarly, Karl Marx helps us realize what kind of exploitation is going on and why economic and socio equality is very much important in the society. Similarly, Mahatma Gandhi expanded the meaning of freedom for us and he gave his own understanding of Swaraj. Swaraj has a very broader concept. We will discuss it in other chapters. But basically, Swaraj means that a human being is under self-control. There is no requirement of any other law or any other government or external authority to tell that person what is the right thing to do. Okay? Similarly, Ambedkar also feels that the meaning of freedom or the meaning of equality is narrow, and sometimes there can be historically disadvantaged sections in the society which cannot compete with other people on equal pedestal, and hence we need certain special protection for them. Let me give you an example. For instance, is it, just think for yourself, is it fair for a disabled person to make them compete with able-bodied person on a similar pedestal? Can we expect that women coming from rural India are allowed to compete with people who have got better education and health facility in urban India? No, it won't be. There have been casteism in our society, there has been patriarchy in our society, and it is because of these structural issues that some people have been at a disadvantageous position. And it is our duty to give them a special consideration when we make public policies. So we see that these political theory helps us refine our ideals and principles, and based on that our governments make public policy, and we want to improvise our social life in a systematic manner, right? So gradually we are clarifying the meaning of this concept. As and when there are newer challenges that come in front of us, we respond to that crisis, and in that process our meaning of this concept gets clarified, right? It also helps us understand significance of certain principles, that why rule of law is so important, what will happen if judicial review is not there, why there must be some separation of power, what will happen, like concentration of power will take place if separation of power is not there. So this kind of thinking is facilitated by political theory, right? And first and foremost important thing is that political theory helps us constantly reflect upon our current political experience, that there are so many changes going on in the society, and are we going to deal with that? How are we going to deal with that? This is very important because political theory is not a static discipline. As I told you earlier, the meaning of the concepts, the political ideals, is never going to be ended with finality. What is required is a constant examination, right? Let us take an example in the next slide. So you see that when we achieved political equality through fundamental right, today also we see that social and economic equality is not there. So in this process what we see, that our understanding of equality was too simplistic. We see that people can be politically equal, but yes, but at the same time there can be economic inequality between them. There can be economic equality between two people of different caste, but there may not be a social equality between them, right? So we see that questions around these never cease to crop up. New and new questions will be coming and we have to deal with it. And there will be newer interpretations. For instance, if we take right to life, earlier it means that nobody can kill me without due process of law. But today it means that right to life will be meaningless if we don't have right to food, if we don't have right to education, if we don't have right to clean environment. So we see that newer interpretations also come from time to time. And when new challenges come in the society, for instance, what is the latest challenge? Information technology, right? So when constitution was enforced in 1949, right to privacy was not a concern. And right to privacy has become a very supreme concern in present times. So new challenge has emerged. So how do we respond? We amend our constitution. And In this process, 100 plus times we have amended the constitution already. Judiciary gets involved and give its own reflection on the issues. So in this process, what we see that it is an endless process. It is an endless process. More and more thinking is going on. People contest the idea of equality, liberty, justice time to time and give it more meaning, right? New challenges come, we rethink on those values. So in this process, we see that only answers that political theory provides is a possible answer. It's not a final answer. And hence, the relevance of political theory will always remain. Because if the answers are never final, this process of political theoretical thinking will always keep on going. And in this process, we'll be keep arriving at better and better understanding of political values. So this is the conclusion of part 1, student, of chapter 1. In the coming lecture, we will be dealing with second part of chapter 1 and subsequently we will be studying different chapters of this book, political theory. Thank you so much.